All right, here we go again.
Hi.
I had a fun one.
Let's do it.
The Chris Rock, Kevin Hart special, headliners only.
Mm-hmm.
It was it was awesome. It was awesome. If you're looking to watch a stand up, it's not a stand up. It's a documentary basically about them doing a tour together and how they came up as comics. And it was awesome if you wanted to see how to form a group, how to form a village, how comics come up in this world. And it was just like, so like Chris Rock was you know, he was uh Eddie freaking Murphy found him and brought him up. And then Chris Rock found Kevin Hart and brought him up.
Mm-hmm.
And there were no basically there were no egos. But it was very cool.
Mm-hmm.
It was very cool. The documentary has like DL Hughley or Earthquake, because they were the part of the original Kings of Comedy. That was Bernie Mac and uh
Harvey.
yeah, Steve
Harvey.
Harvey.
Yep.
Yep. And so they talk about how that the Kings of Comedy kind of fell apart a little bit because of the egos involved. But for the ones that the egos didn't matter, and it was just like, hey, we're gonna do this together. Hey, we're gonna make this together. They thrived and they
Mm-hmm.
succeeded, right? Like they built their village together and just went. I think like if you're a fan of comedy, you'll know Chris Rock came up with, Seinfeld, Bill Burr, uh, you know, Chris Murphy.
Mm-hmm.
It just uh, he found Wanda Sykes. Like you can draw those lines all the way down to how people got put on because they were just like, let's go. We're all gonna move together. We're all gonna thrive together. And it's really cool. And if you ever watch any of the podcasts where they have uh comedians on, like stand-up comics on, they really do all ride for each other unless you do something ridiculous.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
that was very cool to watch. So if you get a chance to watch it, watch it. But it's not a stand-up. Like if you watch it, it's not a stand-up. It's how they manage to, Dave Chappelle, uh, Kevin Hart, Chris Rock, how they're all in the same kind of lineage
Mm-hmm.
and from the same families, and we're starting to see that a lot now, right?
Yeah, I think so. And when I look at, comedy, for instance, because that's what we're talking about, the fundamentals of comedy, stand up comedy, and being a stand up comedian are very fundamental. Like, they have, you know, you have to be able, well, I guess, like write your own material, go up on stage, start in comedy clubs, small clubs, like, but the foundation is the same,
Yeah,
right?
they all
And
struggle first.
yeah, and comedy is what comedy is. Comedy is the goal to make people laugh. So the foundation of being a comedian is the same, but people fall in love with people, and you can say that across so many different
Yeah,
areas. Is
then
that
the number one thing, like the funniest part of it was like Chris Rock and Kevin Hart are sitting at dinner, right?
mhm.
And Chris Rock is like, "Oh man, I fucked up. I asked for watermelon and called the white people crackers."
uh,
Like,
mhm.
I mean, it just if you're a comedian, anybody can get it. It's not he's
Right.
like, well, I messed it up, and he's talking to Kevin Hart's wife, and he's like, I messed it up for all of us.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
But my point being is that, like, the foundation of comedy is the same. People fall in love with comedians because they like the comedian.
yeah,
So a bad comedian.
Hey, Jeff, I see you. I see you, buddy.
What's up?
Thank you very much.
Yes.
I know it's on, and my son is watching it right now.
Giving
We're
us the
not watching.
play-by-play.
Yeah, he is absolutely watching it right now. He is like, the Cowboys and the Bills are on.
Yep. But people love comedians.
Yeah.
And because you love that comedian, you love comedy. You know, like I love Wanda Sykes because of her, the way she delivers her material.
Well, the one thing that they said, very like comedians, famous comedians, ones that can't get canceled, ones that can't do all that. You can have a million bomb movies. Like you can be a comedian and have bomb movies, but if people know that you can go on stage and kill it, they don't care if your movie's bomb. They don't care if you suck. They don't care if you have a bad day, because they know, like, when they go watch you have a killer night on stage at the Apollo or on stage at Madison Square Garden or on stage wherever, they don't care. They're gonna buy your ticket.
Right.
And the fact that all of them brought each other up and lifted each other up.
Yep.
That to me was the biggest thing. They all just looked out for each other. They all heckled each other. They all made sure that they had the chops to go on stage and do all that stuff. If you were bad, they told you that you were bad, and you can say like, "Yo, I'm bad. Like I was bad last night." Any one of them will say it. Like that was tough show for me last night, but they put in the work and they put in the hours and they put in, the time to suck. Like you kind of have to put in the time to suck.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. And it's definitely one of those things where if you feel like someone respects you, then feedback is neutral.
Yeah.
It's neutral.
Yeah. And nobody's mad at the other person.
That's what I'm saying.
If there's no egos involved, you're not mad at the other person for telling you sucked.
Or you're going to have that one person that you really want to impress and they're not impressed. And then
was Chris Rock. Chris Rock.
Yeah.
Chris Rock really wanted to impress Eddie Murphy. And
you got to do the work.
And he was just like, I want to be there. And he said, like, Chris Rock said, Eddie Murphy saw me and he knew that I could do it, or at least knew that he had the work ethic to go do it. And Chris Rock said the same thing about Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart says the same thing about the Cup Boys. Like you find your people and your ecosystem and you roll with it.
Yep.
I think that's such an admirable thing. And I don't think that a lot of people know that about stand-up comics, right? Like you think you just see Kevin Hart and you're like, oh, he's just a giant movie star. You see that about Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. You think he's just a giant. They all have each other. You know what I mean? Who's to say that it wasn't Dwayne that was like, hey, Kev, we could be really freaking funny together. And then they go be really freaking funny together. And now they have a whole other ecosystem that's happening.
Yep. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just smart.
Yeah. Yeah, because everybody has their people.
Whether you like them,
this one knows that one. This one knows this connection. This one has this connection. This one's gotten, maybe the goal is I want to be in a movie. Well, I've been in a movie before. This is what I've done. This is what helped. This is what didn't help. You know what I mean? And if you're willing to take that information and learn from it, then it could potentially get you.
And even Dave Chappelle's in there. Like Dave Chappelle's in that documentary. And he's probably more controversial. I mean, Chris Rock is a little controversial. Kevin Hart's not at all. And Dave Chappelle is extremely controversial.
People still love him, though.
Love him or hate him, watch him or not. Like, but they have built the people and they're bringing the people up with them that they want to. And they've also been brought up by the people that believed in them. So you can try to cancel them all you want.
And it's a tough crowd. It's a tough crowd out there.
Man.
There's critics everywhere.
Yeah.
And you have to decide if it's still worth it for you to do the work. And if it's not, then that's also okay. But it's a tough crowd out there, especially for comedians.
Oh, the name of the documentary. Hold on. Jeff, I'm going to use you first to see if I can. Yeah. What is the name of the documentary? It's on Netflix. It's called Headliners Only, and it's Kevin Hart and Chris Rock, and they basically show you how they come up, who brought them up, um, how they used to test things in comedy clubs in New York, and it's really good. It's not, if you're looking to go look at stand-up comedy, it's not a stand-up comedy special. I mean, I'm sure they'll put that out later,
Yeah.
but it's just, how they came up, who brought them up. They definitely talk about, yeah, yep, there it is. They definitely talk about Patrice O'Neal, all the great comics that were there. It's really good. But it's definitely not stand-up comedy. They just explain to you and show you, it's behind the scenes, basically behind the scenes that Sevon hasn't put out yet. And
Hopefully we'll get there.
yeah. And speaking of that, that's kind of where I really wanted to go. And I really wanted to go there because I feel like people put him in such a bad light. There's that thing where they made him the most toxic man in CrossFit, and I remember I tried really hard. Oh, good. I'm glad. Yeah. I gotta there. Yeah. But they tried to make him the most toxic man in CrossFit. They tried to do all this stuff, and I feel like they don't know who he really is. And I've really worked hard on Sevon's ecosystem to try to show the actual dude that he is, right? I have it a little bit behind me. I did the whole, try to draw the lines and show like where everything goes, and the amount of lives that he's touched and the amount of people that he's affected, and just like in that documentary, in Headliners Only, he did that too. He brought everybody with him, and he found his group of people that he wanted to bring up and wanted to, mentor or help, or saw something in, and he did that. He brought them all with him. Like, if you look at all the lines that go, it's crazy. Even just to the, and Jeffrey, you can say this too, even just to the chat. I mean, the chat initially were the homies, like back in the day when he was trying to film Wadapalooza and film and show that he could film when CrossFit had no media and whatever. Hey man, his chat was giving him live streams from their iPhones of Wadapalooza, of the games, of, Dubai. You had what was it, Patrick Clark, correct me if I'm wrong, was running up the 80 million stairs in Dubai, following everybody and figuring out where everybody was. You know what I mean? Like, you get these people that rally around you, and it's the sky's the limit.
Yep.
And I've been following this forever.
Yep.
Yeah, right. You remember? Yeah, I remember that too. The sky's the limit. There's so many groups that do it that you can see that just thrive, and it is a community that does it together. They all believe in each other. They all back each other. They all think that, and even the people that hate Sevon can't say that they weren't helped by him.
Yeah.
That they weren't helped by the CrossFit podcast or the Sevon podcast, or they can't say that they weren't helped by him. You can't. Nope. You can love him or hate him.
Yeah.
But he's your following, your brand is better because of him. Period. And you can go through you can go through any of them. You can go through the Buttery Bros, you can go through Get With The Programming, you can go through Coffee Pods and Wads, you can go through shit, even kettlebells and cocktails. You don't think they get more views just because Sevon talks about them?
Mhm. Yep.
You can be mad all you want, but he started the space. He showed you what the space was, and he showed you what the space could do.
Yeah.
And as I keep watching, like I keep watching Vlad TV and what Vlad TV does, I keep watching Andrew Schultz and Charlemagne the God and what they do and how they've brought all their people up. And then I see this documentary on Netflix and how they brought all their people up. And how mad can you be? You might not agree with them. But when you find your people that you click with, that you believe in, that you trust, that you have in your circle, and you guys just want to move together, there's nothing more powerful than that.
No, because we're not meant to do it alone.
And is he really about? I mean, I know I did a horrible job of this when I tried to do when I did the Hiller and the and the 7-1, and I really was trying to do the right thing and show them in this light that I'm trying to talk about now. But are they toxic?
I think you do a lot, even if it wasn't the way that you wanted it on that specific podcast when we did that one where literally the thumbnail was the two most toxic people in CrossFit.
No, we didn't do toxic. We did the two most polarizing. That was the one where we wanted to do the freaking drinking game, and every time I said polarizing, we drank. But yeah.
And the word of this podcast is EcoSystems. So if you want to, do that. But I think every time that we talk about him, I know how close you guys are, and I know the relationship that you have built. And if you're willing to see him or anybody, if you're willing to see them in all the lights that they shine, I think it's very powerful. If you're only willing and you only see one side of a person, you also can make that choice too. I'm sure that there's people that watch him to this day that still cannot find and say one nice thing about him. That's also okay.
Yeah, it still that's the haterade.
But it still
you just want to hate him.
Yeah, and it doesn't take away from all the things and all of the benefit and all of the greatness that he has done, which is whether you are affected personally, like you have a relationship with him personally, someone that knows someone that knows someone that knows someone that has a relation that he has a relationship with, like a direct relationship with.
Yeah.
And so he's gonna be there, especially if you're looking in the CrossFit space. He's always gonna be there.
And we can go with this again. He's always gonna be polarizing, right? Hiller's always gonna be polarizing. Shoot, some of the people that he has on his show as guests or talent or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
like you could say Taylor Self is polarizing. You could say Hunter McIntyre is polarizing. There's polarizing people. Go ahead, keep drinking.
No, it's EcoSystem.
Oh, right. EcoSystem tonight.
It wasn't polarizing tonight.
But it's okay to agree with people and also disagree with them. It's okay to have opposite opinions of someone that you love and care about. It's okay to talk about it with them.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact is he's always willing, or he has always been willing to talk about it with you.
Yeah.
If you disagreed with him and you just talked to him and asked him, he's always been willing to talk about it. Mm-hmm. And for me, that's my number one thing. You can disagree with me. I'm fine with that. And we can get into some fun banter and go for it. Doesn't mean I don't like you. Doesn't mean that I think that your opinions are less than. Doesn't mean, just means, hey, that one topic today, that's not my thing, but I get you on the rest. I get you on. I can see where you're coming from. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
What's the problem?
Yeah.
And to just, I get it. Sometimes it can be fodder. you have to have fodder sometimes where people disagree with you and they just want to go ham and they just want to hate you. And I get that. And it makes for, honestly, it makes for fun television and fun podcasts and fun Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Also, too, you don't always get heard, and some things actually need to get heard.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. I just I'm gonna do another one. I really want to do a much bigger podcast where I kind of go on into all the lines that Savon has because he has so many.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and and you can go all the way into the bigger circles that I have, which is, you know, everything that he cultivated. And he cultivated his relationship with Hillary. He cultivated the chat. He cultivated all the guests that love him that want to come back on. He cultivated all the other podcasts that want to be a part of his podcast group. He cultivated, so many things. And I just think that's how you do it now.
Yeah. What's the saying? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the Eagles motto, but I get it. I like it. I very much like it.
Or you can take this
I
one.
wish it was the Giants motto, but it's
you
not.
could take this to a rising tide lifts all ships.
Yeah.
It does, and successful businesses, successful communities, successful ecosystems, successful programs, successful life is because of.
I will say this. This is kind of funny for just anybody who loves Sevon. There was a time where Craig Ritchie went on, I feel like it was Kettlebells and Cocktails. And he talked about how he and Jazz very much talked about how you don't have to turn out anybody else's light to have your own light shine.
Yep.
And that now that we've come full circle, that's very did you believe that or did you not believe that?
Dim someone's light.
Yeah, you don't have thank you. You don't have to dim somebody else's light to have your light shine brighter. And Craig and Jazz definitely said that on that podcast. I believe it was the Kettlebells podcast. It was many years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if they actually thought that, if they were actually willing to walk that walk. Because to me now it feels like they weren't.
That they were willing to dim the light?
No, they're not.
Oh,
like
they're
they
not.
definitely were putting out there that you don't have to dim somebody's light to make your own light shine brighter. There's room for all of us.
There is.
There is.
There's room for everybody.
And I'm not sure if
it's the conversation, around, media, for instance, around a podcast. The fundamentals of a podcast is very straightforward. You jump on, you have a conversation with or without a mic. You put it on YouTube, you put it on Apple, Spotify, wherever you run your, podcast to talk about things that you want to talk about. And people come back to podcasts that they want to come back to for multiple different reasons. They like to hear about it.
Yeah.
It's funny. It gives them some sort of relief. It challenged the fuck out of them. And the list can go on and on and on and on and on. But the fundamentals of podcasting are the fundamentals of podcasting. But there's a space for everybody in here.
Yeah.
You just have to decide which ones, and that's okay. I can like this one better than I like that one.
Yeah.
I can like this guest better than I like that guest. And that's fine. It's really about what are you interested in listening to? What are you interested in learning about? What intrigues you about this podcast that you're like, oh, you know what? I want to listen to that. You know what? I want to check that out. And everybody has a place, whether you agree with them or you don't agree with them.
Yeah.
So.
Big Jeff, I've had many discussions, arguments with Sevon over the years. In the end, it's all about being able to deal with hard topics and agree or disagree. You come back together as friends. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're going to disagree. I'm hoping to have a couple friends of mine on in the next week or so. who have very different political views than me. Um, I have never changed my Instagram. You can go through my Instagram and see how I've changed over the years and how I've gone from one space to another space. I'll never take off anything from my Instagram. You can see how I've grown. Um, and so I definitely I'm hoping to have a couple friends on that. I used to very much agree with pretty much everything that they said, and now that I don't, and I'm kind of hoping to prove that we're not so far apart, right? Like, even though I might be a more conservative now, I might have different views politically now or whatever. At the core, I feel like we're still the same. I feel like fundamental values of how to live, how to be good people are still the same, whether you're, just a regular liberal and a regular conservative, I guess. Not the fringe groups, but just the regular people trying to walk through life. I feel like we're closer than we think we are. And I'm hoping to kind of try to prove that shortly. Um, but yeah, I definitely I've taken offense, or not offense, but I've been very hurt by the fact that someone gets so much shit all the time and nobody looks at the good things that I mean, not his chat, not his people, not like they all know, obviously, but just that the outside people that want to rush, everybody wants to rush to judgment. And maybe it's just a thing for me that just in general, everybody wants to rush to judgment and say people are bad before you even get a chance to see who they are and see what they've done, right?
Oh, I think we're all guilty of that.
Yeah.
And I think we still are. I think there's certain situations where you're like, what the fuck is that? That's a bunch of fucking bullshit. Like, whatever. And I think
there's a lot of crap on my Facebook page that you can go back and look at from, I don't know, 2018, 19, whatever. And I look like a complete dork.
But I mean, it can be about anything.
Yeah.
It can literally be about anything. I mean, it could be something like Sevon said something about CrossFit and he didn't explain it a certain way, or he said, like, I fucking hate that movement. And people are like, oh my God, how can you hate that movement?
Yeah, quick triggers.
How can you hate that workout? I mean, and we're talking like a basic topic of he's like, I don't like to do Fran. And CrossFit loses their mind because if you don't do Fran, then you are not part of CrossFit and whatever. But like, I mean, it literally can be about anything, and we're all still guilty of it. The difference is are you willing to get triggered and not react?
Right. Yeah.
And take a moment and process it and have your people that you talk about it with and break it down, or have a conversation with the person that said it. Hey, listen,
yeah, the fun trigger
that, like,
if you want to go there, the fun trigger I had was when there was a couple weeks where Hiller was very much like, you're not a CrossFitter if you don't eat nut seeds and you don't do CrossFit to intensity to a time clock. He gave this whole list of what it is.
Yeah, it's the 100 words.
No, it wasn't even. Well, yeah, it is.
It's yeah. Words, yeah.
But he like laid it out, and I'm sitting there like, I don't know if I want to eat nuts and seeds. I don't know if I'm always gonna put a clock on when I work out. I mean, obviously, I want to go to intensity. I want my heart rate to raise. I'm boxing now, so I want but to lift heavy weights to a clock. Like, I like to lift heavy weights, but I don't know if I want to lift it to a clock anymore. You know what I mean? Am I not a CrossFitter? Maybe not. I'm okay with that. I'm also okay with, in my head, I do CrossFit. I do functional movements at varied intensities to make my life better so I can pick up my kid and be able to do that well into my later years. You know what I mean? Like, I watch what I eat. I don't go crazy. I'm not nuts. You know what I mean? But I could have lost my mind and been like, no, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm a CrossFitter.
Yeah.
Like, I could have been really pissed off. Oh, Jeff, you're getting with me today. What's happening? All right, let's go. Let's see. They're reactionary rather than thoughtful. If they would listen rather than than just hear what he is saying, people would have a very, yeah, I thought so. What do you think about this? I always say this. Me and Sevan, I was very in his Instagram DMs, just rah 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 in the very beginning, but I never listened.
Mad.
Yeah, I was mad.
God,
I
I
would.
used to have to tell you to put your fuck. I'm like, stop it! Don't talk to him.
This is way back in the very beginning.
Oh,
And then I promised myself that I would listen to his entire podcast instead of just listening into the point where I got pissed and then shutting the podcast off. I would listen to the whole podcast.
mhm.
And then once I started listening to the entire podcasts, I started to understand what he was saying. I started to understand, and his favorite one is like, red doesn't mean stop. We've all agreed that red means stop, but that's not actually what it means. Red's just red.
Mhm.
But for us to be safe driving, we've all agreed together that a red light or a stop sign or red anything means stop.
Mhm.
And that was pretty much when it started to click for me after I started listening to him all the way through and not just loving what his CrossFit content was. And then when he started to get into actual, not political, but just life thought, where I would just cut his podcast off.
Mhm.
But then when I started to listen to it all the way through, it made freaking sense. Oh, good, you agree with me. Cool. Thank you. Cuz that's my thing, and that's why I hate that people get so, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the chat. I love watching him like yell at
The
new chat people and like, well, I'm such a giant fan of that. I'll
Mhm.
watch that all day. It's like my adult soap opera that happens. But when he talks to the Sevenistas and the people that are his regular chat, and like, yeah, I get it. I understand it. And
Well, that goes back to the individual person. Do you
yeah,
want to or do you not? And either there's no right or wrong.
do you want to understand or do you not want to understand?
That's my point.
Do you want
Do
to?
you feel like that this is credible to you as a person to think differently about something specific? Cool. If it's not, that's also fine too. Like, we've said multiple times, there's certain things that like we can have a conversation about it, but I will never change my mind about certain things. And that's also okay. It doesn't mean that I have to be nasty to you because you believe
Something else than
something
me.
else.
Yeah.
It might be very, very difficult.
But are
for
you
me-
even willing to listen to somebody that has a different thought process?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It really goes down to the individual themselves. Are you willing to do it? Do you want to do it? Or are you here just for certain things? I'm sure a lot of people, are go on his page for certain things and watch his YouTube for certain things. And they're looking for something. They're expecting something. So if they are expecting something, then and they don't get it, then they're going to be pissed off. Well, I came on here, the thumbnail, for instance. The thumbnail said that I was going to listen to him talk to someone. He talked to them for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And now it's a solo show and he's going on about whatever he's doing. I'm pissed off because I was expecting a play-by-play of this person's life. I've done that before. I've clicked on, one of his for one of his guests or whatever, and I'm like, God, I wish he would just get to, like, I want to hear him ask her about this. And he never asked her about that. That's my expectation. That's not his fault. That's my expectation about
Right.
what I want and
Yep.
what I'm looking for from that. So that's also part of the conversation too, of like, what is your expectation when you go on to his podcast, for
To
instance?
watch it. Right.
What's
Like-
your expectation for that?
I will tell you this. He had the flat earth guy on, who I will still to this day put, like, I'm going to rank that podcast probably tied for 4th on his Mount Rushmore of podcasts, was that podcast. That, and I didn't even go, I don't care about flat earth. I don't care if you believe in flat earth or not. I wanted to hear it because I just didn't understand what flat earth was at the time, and I wanted to see what this guy was gonna. I don't believe in it. I believe the earth is round, gravity, the whole 9 yards, whatever. I don't believe there's any random shit off the coast of Antarctica, whatever. That's fine. I don't care if you do. Have fun with that. But I just wanted to see what the point was. I didn't understand what the big hoopla was. So I went on it and watched the whole thing. That was that was the greatest shit ever. Like it was so much fun, and I mean, people were legitimately mad about it.
Oh, I'm sure they were.
But you knew a flat earth guy was going on. So were you hoping to change the flat earth guy's mind
I'm sure that
while
there
he was
were
on the podcast?
I'm sure there were a couple people that were hoping for that.
Because that's absolutely what? Like, you're not gonna he's going on the podcast to tell you why the earth is flat,
Mhm.
and you wanna okay. That's a you
Well,
thing.
that's also the thing too that makes it very difficult for a lot of people on a lot of different
No, Jeff, I'm not a
topics.
flat earther. I'm not. You can rest assured I'm not. Absolutely not.
um, it's very difficult for people because a lot of people that come into conversations are coming in to change my mind. You are coming into this conversation to change my mind. Therefore, you're not ready to hear, you're not actually like you don't actually want to have a conversation, which my understanding of a conversation is a back and forth. I say something, you say something, I say something, you say something. But if you're coming into a conversation ready and the ultimate goal is for you to change my mind,
Yeah.
you're not open to listening or receiving anything that I say. So you're coming in here to have
Yeah.
not a debate, because that's a debate. The debate is back and forth.
Yeah.
Like a lecture. Like
Right.
you're here to lecture
Teach me something.
You're gonna lecture me about something, and if I don't leave changed,
You're mad.
then you're mad.
Yeah, I would say I'm always open to hearing, and I can usually go, okay, well, does that apply to me? Does that what you know, but I don't want to fight somebody about it. Like I'm not gonna fight anybody about God. It If you want to talk about it, you want to talk about it. If you don't want to talk about it, you don't want to talk about it. I have my beliefs about it. You have your beliefs about it. I don't disregard yours,
Hmm.
and hopefully you won't disregard mine.
Right.
And I'm fine with that.
Hmm.
Um, I there was that one dude tried to get me to I lost it, but it was a shoot, I lost it.
Hmm.
But I get what you're saying. It definitely uh, if you
I also think, I mean, and we can use that as an example. You hear all the time that relationships only work out if you believe, and we'll just talk about religion because it's what you just brought up or whatever. That
yeah.
like the only way that your relationship or marriage is going to work is if you both believe in the exact same religion.
This is great.
Go ahead.
I love this. I really do. I believe this too. I believe it with my child as well. There are hills that may or may not be worth dying on, and that is up to you. And that is up to you on what they are. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we have so many examples of that with our kid. We have so many examples of that in
Go ahead.
marriage.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can give an example for the baby,
Uh,
or I'll go back to what I was.
no, go ahead. I mean, but that is absolutely true. Like, what
Mhm.
are you willing to? Uh, yeah, are you
Yeah.
willing to beat your head against a wall to get a point across that really kind of
Mhm.
doesn't at the end of the day affect?
Yeah. Like, is it really worth it to do it? You
You know,
know.
am I gonna fight my kid tonight because he would rather eat peanut butter than chicken?
Listen.
The kid's so
I
skinny.
stopped that battle a long time ago.
Just eat some
Just
any
eat
kind of
something.
calories.
Just
Like,
eat
I'll take
something.
that.
And I'll take any healthy thing that I can get into his body right now. And you know what? Everyone's like, he'll grow out of it. And I hope so.
Yeah,
But if he doesn't, he doesn't.
and we'll work with it.
Yeah. But I mean, I think that kind of gives the same kind of principle of what I was saying, is that this whole idea, like, you have to have the same religion. We don't.
We don't.
We don't.
We don't. I absolutely believe in God
Mm-hmm.
and Jesus, and yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
absolutely do.
Mm-hmm. And I don't.
And you don't. And you got right, and you got married in a church because I wanted to get married in a church.
I
And
honored you
yes.
of what was important for you.
Yep.
And I never belittled your beliefs. You never criticized my lack of beliefs. And whenever we have a conversation about religion with our kid, I support you. I'm not out here like because I feel this way because of how I grew up and the pressure of being a certain way, and I had family members that were just trying to tell me like you have to believe, you have to believe, you have to believe, you have to believe. And I just decided a long time ago to step away from it. And in my work, I'm starting to have beliefs. You know what I mean? And because they don't fit into like a box of what specific religion is, doesn't mean that I'm not having them. But when it comes to our kid, when it comes to religion, you and I sit down and talk about it. And I
Yeah.
always say to you, if this is important in the church, this, reading this, touching on this, explaining this, and whatever, I am here to sit next to you with our children because I also don't feel like I need to take that opportunity, take that choice away from our son
Yes.
because of how I believe.
Right.
When it comes to religion, like that is where you and I get to sit down and have a conversation and meet in the middle. What's more important? Is it more important for me to sit here and say, well, I don't believe that? How dare can you teach our children that? I don't fucking believe that. Blah, 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 blah. Why would I do that?
Well, and now he can ask either one of us anything he wants.
Right.
Like
And
if he wants to come to
together,
me and be like, "Hey, mom, why do you?" I
yep,
can answer him. If he wants to
exactly.
go to you and be like, "Hey, mom, why do you?" I can answer him.
Yeah.
I don't disrespect anything.
Nope.
But also too, like you ask me all the questions you want to know, the
Yeah.
things that you didn't grow up knowing and you weren't taught, and the things that I did grow up with and I was taught. Like like, oh, why are you watching this right now?
Yeah.
Oh, why are you reading this right now? Oh, what was the first thing ever that you ever asked me when I was watching something on Samson and Delilah? And you're like, what is that?
Exactly. What is that?
You know what I mean?
What is that?
And it
Yeah.
was, and it's just it's a story. I love that story. It's one of my favorite stories, and I don't know. For me, it kind of taught me to just keep an eye on who I am and don't let anybody else cut pieces away from of me that make me who I am.
Mhm.
Because I did that for a long time.
And I love that. And I can
So
relate to that.
and
I can
it's
absolutely relate to the
yeah,
story and the meaning and the principle behind it. The only difference is that for you, you learned it through your religion, through your faith. I'm learning it through you.
yeah,
I'm learning it through my marriage. I'm learning to find my own beliefs through you and our marriage and asking, like you said, and asking you questions. Whereas you learned it differently.
yeah.
But I didn't take that. I'm not taking that from you. And I think it's also one of those things where it's like just because like what's more important? What's more important? It's important for me because I love you. It's important for me to learn and to know every part of you, inside and out. Like every part of you.
And
Spiritually.
I take my vows very seriously, and you
Mhm.
always knew that.
Mhm.
And you always knew that was important to me.
Yes.
You always knew that it was important for our rings to be blessed in the Bible, and for you always knew that that was important to me.
Cuz that was one of the things I asked you.
Yeah,
I said, "Where do you want to get married?"
church.
I was like, "Okay, let's do it." We got a pastor and we did all the things and we sat down and that was important.
That was a very funny time too.
That was.
Yeah.
That was.
We had to do a lot of things, but
Mhm.
yeah, it was very cool, and I definitely appreciate it. And again, it goes back to, are you willing to talk to people that don't agree with you, and can you talk to them in a a, a comfortable manner
Mhm.
so that people can be heard?
Yeah, if you want to.
If you Yeah, and if you don't, that's fine too.
That's also
Also,
fine too, you know?
I'm still gonna tell you what I think, but
Well, I mean, that's the thing. We're still going to have the conversations and we're still going to come to the table and whatever. And if you want to come sit and pull up a chair, fine. And if you don't, you don't. The only thing that
oh, you did the table thing. That's the thing that always pisses me off. Like I
yeah,
don't know why people don't join the table with Sevan. It's just right there. I'm so dumbfounded how you don't just go sit at the table. Like, just go sit at the table. Break bread, whatever you need to do.
no, he makes a lot of people angry.
What denomination did you get married under? Just curious. I am well, I mean, that was the funny story, but I'm a Methodist. I was born, raised Methodist, uh baptized, confirmation I did when I was ready. I was much older when I got confirmed. And we got married at a Lutheran church, actually, because that was the only pastor that was allowed to, even though it was federally okay and New York State allowed for gay marriage. The only church that would actually marry us at the time with a pastor in the church was a Lutheran church. Um, that was that was
Which is kind of full circle because that's the religion, that's the church that I grew up in, was
Yeah.
a Lutheran church. I mean, I got baptized, confirmation when I was young. I took all the steps, and then it was finally when I got into my teens, I started to step away from it. And then I also had a really good friend of mine who his parents were very, very religious. Was it Born Again? Maybe.
Alex.
Yes. Is it
Yeah,
Born Again?
born again.
Born Again. So that was a pretty big. When I was younger, it was kind of talked about a little bit. And then my other relatives, my another aunt and uncle pair was, I believe, Catholic.
Yeah.
Like very Catholic, and that was really where it was like when they were throwing. That's when they started to really throw religion at me, and I very much rebelled and was just, I also,
Yeah, they forced it on you.
yeah, and I also really struggled, and I'm sure this is probably a similar conversation for a lot of people, and I struggled because I lost my grandfather and my aunt and my uncle all very close to each other, and the whole idea of like, why would God do that? Why would God take them? Why wouldn't he let us keep them? Why and whatever. I lost my aunt when she was the first death that I remember, and I was like 15 or 16. And I remember just kind of sitting there like, why would you do that? Like, why would you take her? And then my grandfather passed away very shortly after that, and then my uncle, my aunt's husband, passed away very short. It was like 2 years, 3 years. I think that they all kind of passed. Might have even been closer to that. Might have been like under 2 years. And so that's when I started to really, after I got confirmed, I kind of started to step away because we really weren't going anymore. So I didn't really have that consistency. But then when all of the death that I felt, I very much started to step away from that. And then that's when the like, you can't do that. If you don't believe in if you don't want to be Lutheran, then come over here. Here's this scripture, this scripture, this scripture. And then I really was like, I don't want to be a part of anything.
Yeah, it's scary when you're young.
And really struggling of like, well, what does that mean? Well, what do you mean? Like, don't pressure me to do that. You know what I mean? So I very much stepped away from it. But
yeah, I mean, as much as my mother was ridiculous in my childhood, and my grandparents made religion, and my aunts and uncles, they made religion a very loving thing for me. So it wasn't scary. It wasn't, I was going to burn in hell. It wasn't, you know what I mean? Like, it was very much just getting to know your father, your creator, your like Jesus Christ. And what, it wasn't scary when I was coming up. But
yeah, when I was younger, like I remember summers or Sunday school and all the music, and so when I did go to church, for
I sang a lot of
funerals.
hymns, and my voice is terrible. So
Yeah, like,
but I sang a lot of hymns.
Yep.
I was in there.
Yeah, all the music.
I still remember them to this day. If they start singing them, there was stuff on the radio today for like, Christmas and stuff. And I know all the words. It's not.
Yeah, and I would go to, Christmas mass super late at night with my grandfather just to go spend time. Midnight mass. Yep, just to go spend time with my grandfather, and because that was important to him, and it was the music. It was, again, here we go, full circle, just being around family, being around community, being around.
I was in all the plays. I was always in. Yeah. I was always in the birth of
Mm-hmm.
of Jesus Place. Always.
Nope, never did any of that.
Oh my God, I was in
I
all of
remember
them.
summer or Sunday school.
And I
for the
was
most.
actually a girl in them. They actually let me be a girl character in all of those, so it was fine.
Yeah.
I was good to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, yeah. So yeah, I just want to get that out. I mean, I do want to do a very much a bigger video where I kind of show all of the lines that Sevon has and some of the other, but I saw that documentary yesterday or the day before, and it just reminded me so much of, you know, how important it is to have a group of people that you that are good for you, that you trust, that are there for you, that got your back, that, that's just the number one thing. And I think that's how you come up. That's what you do.
Mhm.
And so
Well,
super
why
cool.
was it? And we can leave on this.
Yeah.
Why was it, or why is it important for you to show him in this light?
I think I said it before. Well, I mean, we can go back to, I don't know. He's the first person that ever, kind of made me look at something different, that was willing to talk to me. Even though I didn't agree with him, he was still willing to talk to me. He was still willing to have the argument. He was still willing to just keep talking. And most people are not. And most people, when someone's fighting them, and of course, I probably just seemed like a raging lunatic at the time. And he was still willing to talk to me and still willing to explain where he was coming from and what his point of view was. And he didn't just be like, "Oh, well, this bitch is crazy, so I'm not talking to her anymore." He just kept talking to me. And I will always be grateful for that. I will always be thankful for that. And for me to see other people just be like he's a dick because they listen to him for 30 seconds, to me is just, I I'm gonna show him, in the light that I want to show him in, and in the light that I don't think a lot of people get to see him in.
Mm-hmm.
And just the board that I made, I mean, you can see it on the thumbnail. I have it a little bit behind me, but I'm gonna try to figure out how to put it on the computer so I can actually pull it up so you can see how many people he has helped and he has touched, and he's made them think and made their lives more fulfilled. I'm not even talking about it like it's a church. Please don't please don't say that, Jeffrey. Please don't tell him that I said that it's like the church of Sevon. But because he will fuck me up for days. But like, it is the truth. It's just, there's so much come up from someone that was willing to give. And he's always been willing to give.
Well, remember, and I learned this from you, whenever you gift, don't expect something in return.
Absolutely.
So every gift that he gives
it because he wants to.
He gives it because he wants to. And not everybody is going to see it in that way.
I know.
And it's okay that they don't see it in that way. That's their choice.
It's okay. I'm still going to talk shit, though. I'm still going to put this out. I don't give a crap.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff, thank you for hanging out with us. I appreciate you, buddy. You're the best in the whole world. But yeah, we're going to get out of here. Glenn, thanks. Love you guys.
Bye.
Bye.